Thank you. Thank you. So thrilled to be here. Greetings from USC's Norman Lear Center. So I'm here today basically to talk to you about some things that we've been working on for the past. Basically, I've been on the job about 126 business days. So for anyone who's counting, it's like that's not much time. But we've done a lot of work, and I can tell you that it has not been all alone. It's like it takes a village. It takes many of us. None of us can do any of this alone. And the whole premise of the Media Impact Project is really about collaborating and doing things together and learning together and making sure that we're sharing all the kinds of things that we're doing, just as Melody's doing and showing her leadership there at NPR. So let's jump in. First off, I thought I would just start by just giving you a definition of the way that we think about media impact. The way we define it, we define it as the role that media play in changing knowledge, attitudes, and behavior among individuals and communities, large and small, around the world. Pure and simple, nothing more, no window dressing or anything else on that. When I talk about our mission statement, that really is where the crux of what I'm going to talk about today. Really, the Media Impact Project is here as a global hub for collecting, developing, and distributing the smartest approaches and the best tools for measuring the impact of media. I also oftentimes talk about it as being the place where we're here to basically understand how media motivates people to take social action. Same thing, same idea. So we're going to jump into basically each of the three areas: collecting, developing, distributing, give you some examples of the things that we've been doing and what we have in store as we move forward. So first, just collecting smart approaches. First off, we did a lit review that you could, if you want to email me, my email address is at the end of this, at the end of the presentation here. It was done by Phil Napoli, who now is at Rutgers. Really, our focus was really on getting organizations that are kind of culturally ready to actually do impact measurement. A lot of organizations are not, and in fact, they sometimes find themselves in a place where they've seen impact, anything about measurement as being punitive or being something that is something to be shy about or embarrassed about, because most of the people, of course, who are doing this work are not necessarily researchers. They don't come from an analyst background. So we're expecting a lot out of them to be able to actually have them step up and to create a culture where it's going to take more than just that analyst to be able to change the way that the business works. It's really about behavior change. Another thing we're doing, and this is the crudest drawing I've ever dealt with before, ever had before. We'll have something much better in the future. We're building a data analytics center. In fact, it's already built. It's ready. We've been taking in data. It will basically be comprised of two levels. One, it's like it will accept lots of third-party data, open data sets that are the kind of data that's not sensitive, doesn't have any kind of restrictions around it. And then also we built a safe data harbor. So building this from the ground up with the safe data harbor at the center of it, really with all the policies and procedures and safeguards and everything to ensure that the people who are using, the right people actually get to see the right data. We also will serve as a third party if there are opportunities where you have lots of different data that you don't necessarily want the groups to actually see, but you need someone in the middle to basically kind of air traffic control all that and do that analysis. And we also have the ability to have virtual machines so that the data doesn't have to leave the company's organizations where it lives. It will all be ingested and go through a whole process. Carl Kesselman, who runs this division, is much more conversant in this, but it's using a lot of USC's computational excellence and group at the ISI Institute to basically help us develop new tools, new dashboards, new kind of approaches that will all be open source and available to everyone. So, developing, we've spent a good deal of time on the development front. One development approach that we're actually working on with Participant Media. So Participant Media is an organization that has what they call a double bottom line. They have one bottom line, the typical kind of financial one that we all know about, and then they also have another one that's what they would call doing well by doing good bottom line. So they produce movies like Inconvenient Truth, Food Inc., movies like that are more pro-social in mindset. And in fact, they are a great company to work with, in fact, to partner with and collaborate with, because they're in the very business of doing the thing that we're all trying to learn about. They've been for a long time talking publicly about how that they actually motivate people to change or to take action from seeing the movies that they produce. Now they're ready to quantify it. And so that's the partnership. That's what we're doing with them, in fact. And basically what it's called is the participant index. And don't think index as in research index. It's really about a collection of different media performance data to assess the combined results of one's actions taken across a number of different screens and different kinds of media content. Now, how does that relate to news and journalism organizations? It's like, again, those films are news and journalism oriented. They are, some of them are documentaries, but many of them are not. But we're looking at narrative films, documentaries, TV, narrative and reality unscripted shows, as well as short online video. So we'll have a good deal of understanding about the entire video landscape, and in particular as it relates, and we heard just earlier today, a lot more organizations, of course, are going towards video. So we'll have a lot of that learning to share, of course. Plus, we also are working with the Internet Archive and using all their, they capture the closed caption data for all news programming. So not only your 6 o'clock and evening news, but also shows like The Daily Show, 2020, Good Morning America, all those kinds of things as well, to be able to understand what role those play in helping to motivate people to take action, make social change themselves. Another one that we've actually been working on also is we found that there are hundreds and hundreds of actions that one is challenged with having to think about how do I measure. When you think about all the things that an action that a person could take after seeing some kind of content or after talking to another person, it could get quite mind-numbing. And so we set out, before I was actually joined the project last year, the number of you actually were at a meeting, a convening, that they had, that Media Impact Project hosted, and it was really around something that I think they called the ENGS, which was inspired from folks at the New York Times, and some other organizations where they all basically contributed, dumped all their basically the actions that they were actually measuring. And so from that, we basically created the verbs. And it's called the verbs of online action. And basically it's a way, a taxonomy, an organizing principle to think about how do I, if I need to actually measure, a certain kind of action, I can actually go to the heading here and find out, and there's a grid. I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot of what the kind of headline is on this. But I could look, in fact, and see the kind of thing that I would actually be, how it's described, what the activities are that are associated with it, what the means by which I should research it, what expectations I have from it, what advantages and disadvantages from that approach would be. Just a great at-a-glance snapshot for people who are not necessarily well steeped in understanding how to do this kind of research and helping to provide great solutions for you. So we're really excited about this product. More development, other kind of smart approaches. So the way that we're looking at all of this is basically, wow, I didn't see this happen. So lots of data, we'll use the verbs. We'll then filter it through different cohorts, which a lot of times doesn't seem to happen. And when I talk about cohorts, you could think of it typically as demo data, really thinking about how different segments within your audience take actions. We'll put it through the types and frequency, then an impact model. But the impact model will be influenced by other observations that really come from qualitative research and anecdotal research that many times gets brought in at the beginning of this process, but it gets buried. But oftentimes that's the nectar of it all. That's the stuff that really influences and helps to give shape to your kind of solutions and, in fact, how you would actually measure the impact. Go very fast. We're also working on another thing. We can take this for another day, but basically we're working on it. There's a neighborhood within Twitter called Black Twitter. And it's people who actually, they're not all African American, and they're not all African Americans are not all involved with Black Twitter. But basically, we found that they galvanize and mobilize themselves around specific topics. Sometimes a lot of news and political kinds of issues. Well, it just so happens that they are also viewers of Scandal, and it's like we have Scandal viewing parties, and we've been monitoring all the Twitter data for Scandal because it's actually a show that is a perfect researchable moment for a news and journalism organization, because it's like it has all the things that you'd want. If you ever wanted to design a study to try to understand how news works with people, it's like you want it to be a place where there's lots of heavy audience involvement, where the content is engineered for social media activation. That would be the dream state, of course. Third, it's like it's the audience's content is created, unfolds in response to real life experiences, just like the way that we respond when we see news. And finally, it's instead of, not everyone has a clearly defined community that they work with, right? It's like sometimes it's fluctuating and it's kind of like amoeba-like. So it's a great collective of audiences that are kind of organized within Twitter. We've been studying it now since the beginning of this season currently. We have lots of learnings, and we'll share those with you. You'll be seeing those in the future. So distributing is the last one. We're distributing lots of different tools that you can see across pretty much everyone because, of course, media impact measurement and the measurement and understanding of impact is pervasive. We can't really get away from it, and mostly it's because media is pervasive. So we're here dedicated to focusing on all those. What's next? This is one thing I just want to share with you. Basically, we feel like that there's not a lot of understanding about the person who's in charge, who is like on point for doing the analytics in a news organization. I think that we made lots of assumptions about what they know, what their life is like at work. We find a lot of times that if their supervisor or the senior manager at their organization or editor at their organization does not make this kind of work a priority, it's like they put it to the side. It's on their to-do list. It's not something that they're going to make sure gets done. So we want to basically shine a light, illuminate what the arc of the experience of the person who actually is doing that job is all about, and bring light to that, and also talk to some senior managers also to understand what it is that we can do in terms of outreach for that group, because we believe that they were not brought up in all this culture, right? They're many times reciting talking points and doing the right thing, but it's like, when push comes to shove, we need to make sure that the actual work is getting done the right way. We're hiring. We're hiring. Thank you very much.